Perfect. Now that our component is up and running, let's move further and make it a little bit nicer and smarter. What we're going to do is we're going to create a form inside this component that let us post some quaks. Therefore, let's first of all remove all this. Let's create a script tag on top. Okay, and what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to start using some components that Laravel provides us with Laravel Breeze. The first one is the head component. This component by itself is not from Laravel, but it's from Inertia that comes with Laravel Breeze. So let's import it. We need to import it. By the way, this is Vue 3, so we are going to use the composition API. So let's import the head component from Inertia. Okay, and give it a title. Let's say quaks, for example. So if we go now to our browser again, of course our page is totally empty because we removed a thing, and the head component, what it does, it just sets the title on top of the page. It changes our title. Our default title is Laravel, and this is the quaks. Perfect. Let's move a little bit further. We are gonna use now the authenticated layout. This is a component that is created for us with Laravel Breeze as well. So just import it, and let's see. Let's go back to our browser, and you see that now we have that nav bar on top that we also have on the dashboard and in our profile. So what we are doing is we're just setting this layout there. Let's move back. So back into our quaks. We have now the layout set with an empty or with nothing in it. So that's why it's empty, right? So the page is empty by itself. So now we're going to create a div in order to don't be too boring. I'm going to just paste it in here. So I have a template. This div is, if we go into the page again, we don't see anything. The div is there, but we don't see it, right? This is our div. So maximum width of 2XL with some margin on the sides and so on. Okay, now what we're going to do, we are going to create a form element or a basic HTML form. Let's create it in here, form. Instead of an action, we are going to listen to an event. The event is going to be submit. And we also want to prevent that it's bubbling up to the page so that it does not reload. When this event fires, so every time the form is submitted, this event will fire, and then it will trigger whatever we pass in here. What are we going to pass in there? So we are going to create an object, const form. This object is going to be constructed out of a use form from Inertia. So you see that it's automatically imported right now. So we need to pass in an object and the data that we want to use in this form. So in this case, we just have a message, for example, with default to empty string. What we're going to do here, every time the form is submitted, we are just going to do the form dot post. So we are going to use the object that the use form gives us back to post where we want to post. So we are going to post to road quaks dot store. So road is something that Laravel gives us directly in here, so it's injected into the page. This is a global function, and we can strip out any of our roads that we previously saw in our road list. So we are going to use quaks store. In order, we could also, basically what we could do, we could also do quaks like this. Okay, but it's just easier to use the name. So in order that if we later change the URL or whatever, then and the name stays, it will still use the same URL in here. And also we need to do, or we can provide a second parameter to this form post. It's an object. So we could just pass in here an object. As an option, we can provide, one of the things that we can provide actually is the onSuccess function. So what won't we do once the form is successfully posted? So therefore, we just give it a key of onSuccess. It needs to be a method. And what we want to do is just form.reset. So this form, if we look into it, it has a reset method. We could actually pass in which fields. In this case, we would just want to reset everything. So let's see. The form is there. Great. If we look now into our page, it still looks the same because an empty form is, it just don't show up in HTML, right? So let's see, here's our form, it's empty, do nothing. Great. Next step, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna create a text area. Okay, let's do it right now. Text area. Let's close this. Perfect. And it's gonna have a vModel form message. Form.message. Okay, every time this is changed, this will be updated. Let's go back, and now we should see there is our text area. Great. Back to our code. We can also provide a placeholder, for example. Placeholder. What do you want to quack? And I'm also gonna give some nice classes in order to make this a little bit nicer. I'm just gonna paste them in. This is Tailwind. It's easy to use. If you didn't have a look into it yet, you should, because the learning curve is very, very small, and it's powerful like nothing, really. Let's see our page, how it looks now. Yeah, that's the difference. There's our placeholder, and you see it's now styled. So just text area, but styled. Besides that, we also want to have some feedback if we have some validation errors, right? So therefore, we are gonna use the input error component. I prefer it like this: input error component. Oh, it's not auto-completing it. Okay, the input error component is not imported. Let us import it. Import input error from components input error. This is one of the components that Laravel brings with Laravel Breeze. We can, I'm gonna close it like this because it's easier to read. First of all, we need to provide a message. So we can just say the message is the form.errors.message. Okay, if we just click on here, we see this is the inertia form. So this is the form that is returning, and we have an errors key in there that we can access. Let us move back. Perfect. Also, small class of margin top 2, for example. Great. So every time, this is not gonna. So if we go now to our page, let's go directly so that we see it. We don't see anything. Okay, Let's inspect if we see something like that. Okay, we see there is an empty paragraph because we have no errors, right? This is only gonna show up. You even can see that display is none. This is only gonna show up if there's a message. So if we, for example, let's say instead of form error message, we just put in here like you have an error, something like that, and go back to our page, you see there's a message. Great. I'm gonna put this back. Okay, this is only gonna show up as soon as we have some errors. Let's also use the primary button. The primary button is also from Laravel. You can see it's imported automatically in there. And what we're gonna do is just Quark. Give it a small margin on top of 4. Let's see. And there's our button. We could also move it to the right. Therefore, we can just create a div around it, put the input error in it, and the primary button. Give it a class of flex, item center, and justify between. This alone is not going to show it. Let me show you why. Okay. Basically, it's just because it's the only element in the site right now. So what we actually would need to do also is to surround the input error in another element so that it recognizes there's something. Great, let's move back. And now you see that our button is on the right side. Here is a div, what is empty. For now, let's just bring back the message. So you see the message will appear on the left side and the button on the right side. Actually, what we could do as well is just give it another color. Let's say, for example, background color of gray. Here you have all the colors, so I like this 700. This is a nice color. Let's see it. Okay, that's it. Great.